What's going on, guys, and welcome back. So we had another week of events, and what does that mean for the format? What decks are up, what decks are down? I think we all kind of know. It sure feels like it's a blue steel format, and that's not too far off from the truth, but there's actually a few decks that can compete really well, and we're going to go ahead and talk about the pie chart, and then we'll go over a few deck lists that I pulled from the format. We're about 3 weeks in now. We have well over 200 total tops. Once I get more of the deck core stuff done on the spreadsheet, I will start linking that down below once again like we were prior. But anyway, this is where we were at like 2 weeks ago. There wasn't a whole lot of information out there. It was the first weekend, and we saw Popsicle actually staying on top, and then Purple Steel, and then the multiple Blue Steel decks coming in afterward. And you could argue that Blue Steel clearly has 13 here. Blue Steel's the best deck. But there's such a drastic difference from Blue Steel items to Blue Steel aggro. And then you could go ahead and argue, what about Popsicle from the Shark Action version versus the item version? And maybe you're right. Maybe we should go and split up the two different Popsicle style decks, just because they are pretty different. And so in that same regard as the Blue Steel argument, maybe we should do that. Let me know down below what you think. Otherwise, we saw Amber Steel aggro, Discard, Ruby Amethyst, Blurple, Steel Fossa, and Amber Emerald aggro all popping up and being decks to worry about for the format. So where are we at now? Well, we see Popsicle still actually is the number one. Again, this is pre-split, so if we split that up, it will probably come down. Probably going to actually work on that, so next week it might look drastically different. But anyway, Popsicle is still holding a 1-spot lead over the Blue Steel item deck from 46 to 45. But if you look at overall percentage, they went from 27% down to 21%. So kind of interesting to see that drop off, and I think it's more indicative of where the format truly is. Blue Steel items, however, went from 17% up to 21%, so we're starting to see that Blue Steel deck be overwhelmingly better. Is it going to continue to grow? I think that there's a chance for it, but at the same time, I think it's going to stay right in that like low 20% tile range anyway. Blue Steel aggro went from 15% up to 16%, so a slight jump. We see them actually move into that third place spot. Purple Steel aggro going from 17 down to 12. This is more of like a meta, your local meta call, things like that. Is it the deck that you want to play? And I think that it's a great anti-meta, if you will. It's weird calling a tier 1 deck anti-meta because it was tier 1 last format too. I think that it's proven to just be meta at this point. I think Purple Steel aggro is just in a really good spot overall. We see discard at 7% when it was at 5%, so Green Steel discard is also on the move upward. Amber Steel aggro sitting at 5% instead of the 7% they were. Those two just kind of flip-flop spots. Not too crazy there. Ruby Amethyst control still right after them, but instead of 1, they got 8 tops, so they're moving on up a bit, 3% up to 4%. Steel Song joining the pie chart, and Amethyst Emerald discard also joining the party. I'm curious to see how far and how fast this deck comes and joins up, though, because it kind of popped up in the last week, and it's been doing really, really well, and I think it's going to gain a lot of steam, and I think we're going to see that this deck is going to make a strong push into that top 5 category, possibly. I think Amethyst Emerald discard is just one of those decks to really look out for. Other decks, 15 total, and that's from like your Blurples to your Fossa decks and everything in between, your Lemon Lime style decks. There's a handful of decks in that other category. So that's kind of where the pie chart is. Not a whole lot of change. The Blue Steel decks took over the Purple Steel spot, and then we saw Amber Steel and Emerald Steel flip-flopping. Otherwise, Steel Song and Amethyst Emerald joining the party, which that's not uncommon for those two decks to do poor in the first week or so. They kind of see where the format's at, and then they build and adapt for the format. We've seen it for the last like 3-4 formats now, where that's what those two decks do, and they come on stronger, and continue to do better as the format develops and goes on. So we're going to go ahead and just look at a couple lists real quick and talk about them briefly. And we have that Amethyst Emerald discard deck, if you will. It's almost like a Dirty Birds. We got so many Diablos in here, 16 of them to be exact, and you even got Iagos in there. So we got 4/4/4 for all of your Diablos. The newest one's a 1/2 evasive that also gets Challenger +2, which is kind of I don't want to say crazy, but kind of just really generically good. It's essentially a 1-2 challenger 3. It's like your Captain Hook, but it's evasive. So I think that actually gives it a lot of utility because it's harder for your opponent to get rid of it ahead of time too. So you can play it and start questing with it even if you don't have that shift line set up, and it's going to have that added protection being evasive. Ursula, obviously not too crazy there. Diablo should be expected. Fox, no Snake at all, which, I mean, you're not playing the Merlin package, so Snake really doesn't have a lot of utility in this deck, and I'm not surprised at all why it's not in there. Fox is still a rush character at the end of the day. Merlin Crab is insane. Like, Merlin Crab is so good. Most Amethyst decks should be playing this card at 3 or 4. We see 2 Prince Johns. You don't need all of them because you're playing Amethyst deck, which is just crazy with draw power already. 4 Genies. Absolutely love Genie this format. 2 Iagos, very big and big booty on there. The easiest way your opponent's going to do out it is by targeting it, and it feels kind of good for you if they have to waste their targeting cards on something like the Iago. Cricky also boosting your character's strength, get some crazy trade-off value with your Diablos, or he's just a 3-quester with 4 willpower, so that's pretty good there too. Elsa, really like her this format. Improvise, just another little draw card that gives that added strength to one of your characters. Hypnotize, Sudden Chill, again, we are playing discard, so that's where these come in. Friends on the other side being draw, and we don't talk about Bruno as a nice way to remove. So 12 1-drops, a lot of evasive going on here too. We got the Diablo, Genie, Iago, Elsa, so you can get pretty aggressive here, and the deck can come out of, I don't want to say come out of nowhere, but the deck can move pretty quickly and win by like turn 6, 7 very easily and very consistently. So that's something you got to look out for with it. And obviously, while you're trying to deal with their board, you have to realize and remember that they're coming after your hand. Not only are they putting these threats down on board that are difficult to deal with, they have the Cricky and the Merlin to get crazy trade-off value with their lower cost, weaker, less valuable characters. They also have the ability to go after your hand with things like Hypnotize and Sudden Chill. And while you're trying to win out the game, while you're trying to deal with their board, they're confronting you on multiple fronts by your hand and your board. So I do like what they're bringing to the table, and I think this deck is really interesting. And moving forward, I do expect it to continue to do a little bit better and better. Then we have the Sharknado. So Dinking Fam was the one who kind of popularized this version of Popsicle, where you're focused more on Maui Half Shark and the actions versus the items. We see Tipo in there, Sisu, Grammatala, Hiram, Maui, Medusa, Maui, the new Tamatoas, and Sisu's. So not a whole lot really changed from last format here with the character type lineup. Medusa wasn't always played, so she's kind of an introduction to it, but that's just like format dependent, especially with some of the new cards and tools we have. Being able to take out lots of threats once you drop like a strength or 2 off of them, and then she can take out many characters in the game. Same with like Big Sisu, but she was already played to the max 3 or 4 of anyway. I know I mentioned the items not being the focal point of the deck, so you might say, why the Hirams? Well, he still offers potential draw, and you can loop things with your Tamatoa Happy as a clam just to get a lot of consistency from it. In addition to that, your opponent, a lot of the time when they see the Hiram come down, that's something they're going to brawl. It's something they're going to Sisu. They're going to try to remove it as soon as possible. And in these style decks, it's usually less important keeping him on the board. Not saying he's not important, not saying he's not good, but it's usually less important than the other versions of the deck. You got the Hideaway because locations, Sail for your ramping, Vision for consistency. We got the 4 brawls, How Far I'll Go for ramp and consistency, Let It Go, Pirate's Life, Be Prep, and Popsicles. So like I said, definitely low in the item count, which is what was expected. You kind of play your Hiram, pop it, draw a couple, and then when your clam comes down, when your crab comes down, the Happy as a clam is what was throwing me. When your crab comes down, you can go ahead, get it back, play it again, draw a card, quest, pop it, draw a card, and then you get it. Like, you just get some nice draw value out of it in that sense. We don't have anything for dropping the strength, so Medusa still puts in a lot of work. Still hits like Robin Hood, Sad Beast, still hits a lot of characters in the game. She, like I was saying before, like if you have like Sapphire Coil in there, especially like you ink and then drop 2 strength off something, now all of a sudden your Medusa can take out Sisu's, Tamatoas, all kinds of cards, as opposed to where she couldn't before. I think that she's still good, and I get playing her just as the 2 of, but you're going to see some of these versions, especially the item one, where they're focused more around the Sapphire Coil and then cards like her. Definitely tough to deal with as well. If you're playing an Amethyst deck, maybe think about like the Queen, the new one, because not only can you hit items versus the item focused decks, but in a deck like this focused around your half shark, you go after that Pirate's Life, get that out of the discard so they can't just keep reusing it and abusing it. And if it's not there, obviously B preps, Visions of the Future is a big one too, because you don't want them to be able to just see and get whatever they need to their hand. So Pirate's Life can be a big win condition for them. Don't be surprised too if you see like a McDuck Manor in there. It's just another really strong card. Wonder if they opted out for it because people are preparing more for locations, which is something I was considering when building my deck for tomorrow as well. So that's something to consider. I still like something to deal with a location. Like, you got to be ready for it. Either try to go under it or have a way to deal with it, whether that's Hideaway, whether that's Cusco, whether that's Zeus, things like that. You need some type of way to deal with it. Another super slept on card that could be decent if Oswald items just completely blows everything else out of the water. Avalanche. Just do 1 damage to everything and kill a location. Just saying, it has utility in both matchups. And you can take out them Oswalds, you can take out a lot of characters that way, and you can just play it to get rid of a location if you need to. It's uninkable though, so that's the problem. And then we also had this one. This was from almost 2 weeks ago now on 3/16. But it's no new cards because he didn't play any new cards. We saw this towards the end of last format where this deck started to do better. And they played the set 5 version. And it's like, I said it right from the start. I tried to update it for set 6. It just did not feel that great. And I was like, I don't know that I really care for how the new set helped this deck out. I don't think the new set really did. And people started to realize that. And as the format went on, they're like, we're just going to play the deck how it was before. And they started to see success. And this player was just like, you know what? I'm going to do that right off the bat. So shout outs to PD Bennett for just saying, I'm going to go ahead and play that set 5 deck in set 7. And I'm going to go ahead and win that event. So, running out of breath here. We got Diablos, Sir Hiss, Ursula, Ursulas, Ariels, Diablos. I know I'm just reading to you guys right off the screen. Prince John, Muses, Kita. These are a big portion of it. The Muses and Kita playlines are very intricate to how the deck works. Lucifer I really like in there. I do like him as a 2 of some of the time too. Let's see, uninkable counts. You got 4, 5, 9, 12. So, I mean, you'd go to 13. That's not terrible. It's right at the top of where I'd like to be, though, so I get it. You Have Forgotten Me is another discard outlet in that power position. Then you got your Roses, your Strikes, Chills, Bare Necessities, Bruno, Under the Sea, Hidden Coves. Like I said, nothing crazy or outlandish here. It's kind of what we've seen before. So, essentially how this deck is gonna work, you use things like your Ariel to go looking for your songs, whether it's Sudden Chills, Bare Necessities, Bruno's, getting to that Under the Sea playline to set up your, I'm going to play Kita, everything loses 3, Ariel's already a singer 5, I got 3 more singing power, sing Under the Sea, everything just lost 3, I'm going to completely board wipe you. So you got that Kita Under the Sea playline, and in addition you also just have things like Muses bouncing characters, no double singing Ursula, which you like to see her, but at the same time I understand, and the deck has an interesting curve line where she kind of feels out of place at times, so I completely get it. But yeah, you hit Ursula, like if you can hit singing Ursula on 2, Ariel on 3, and then when you get to that Kita playline, you play her, -3 everything, Under the Sea, huge power play. Otherwise, you just have your Lucifer, Forgotten Me, your Brunos. You go after their hand that way too. So not only do you have the board wipes, you got the hand wipe. In addition to your Muses being able to bounce your opponent's board, if you can't board wipe them, you can just remove them that way, especially once your Kita comes down or you're painting the rose red. You give 2 characters -1 this turn, and now all of a sudden your Muses can target them because if they had 3, now they have 2. Or you can actually bounce your own Ariel, get her back to your hand, so then you can replay her, look at your deck for 4 more cards, see if you hit a song, and get that. And you can also bounce your Lucifer. So when you play a song, you can say play Lucifer, Muses say sing Sudden Chill, make them discard a card. Now that means they discarded 2 for the turn. and then she can go ahead and bounce your Lucifer, which means next turn they're going to have to discard another 1 or 2 cards based on if it's an action or not. So there's a lot of nice little inner strategy here, like with your muses, the Lucifers, the Ariels, and then also that Kita and Under the Sea play lines. It's not a easy deck to play. I watched a couple of people play it, and it's just there's so much thought process and which play lines to go for, when to bounce your opponent's board, when to bounce your own board, when to go after their hand, when to go after the board. There's just so much intricate play lines with this deck, and if you like a deck that challenges the pilot but rewards them for a lot of intricate playing, I think that this is an incredible deck for you. Overall, I think it's still in a decently solid rogue spot for this format. And that's pretty much it, though, for today, though, guys. The new format, we go ahead, we can show that back up again for you guys. That's where we're at with our pie charts. And, well, that's where we're at with a couple deck examples. We got other deck profiles planned, plus update you guys how we do this weekend. I heard there's supposed to be at least 15 Gold Mickey winners at this tournament, so we'll see what happens. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to see what happens. Not playing a blue steel deck, though, so we'll see. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for all the support. We hit our goal, so that's really awesome, too. As always, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Comment down below. You guys know what it is already. Thanks for watching, though, and have a great weekend.